This painting, American Progress by John Gast, is from several decades later, but it reflects the view of manifest destiny that was extant before the Civil War too. You in the background you have the sun rising over a city and railroads coming out west, telegraph lines being strung along the rail tracks by the goddess of liberty herself, Columbia. Just ahead of the railroads is the stagecoach, another symbol of civilization. And ahead of the stagecoach is, of course, the covered wagon, and here are pioneer farmers coming west. And notice how dark the skies are over here because, well, Columbia is bringing the light of white civilization. In the background, we can see wild animals and Native Americans running for their lives because here comes white civilization, manifest destiny. Now, this belief in manifest destiny leads to action. Throughout the 1800s, the U.S. is going to be getting more land and clashing primarily with the Indians, but also occasionally with the British, the Spanish, and Mexico. Now, brief review. This is North America before European settlement. Fast forward to 1700, and we have French and Spanish and English/British claims in North America. Over here, we've got the United States after the American Revolution, from the eastern seaboard to the Mississippi River. Because of Toussaint Louverture, leader of the Haitian Revolution, Napoleon sells Jefferson the Louisiana Purchase, basically doubling the size of the country. Then a few years later, under President Monroe, Secretary of State John Quincy Adams adds Florida to the United States through the Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819. Going fast because those were review. Now, we looked at this slide last time when we were looking at the Mormons escaping Illinois and getting out of the United States to find safety in Utah. But I want to look at the other trails on this map now as well. See, because the Mormons were leaving the United States on purpose, hoping to escape permanently. But these other migrants, some folks are going down the Santa Fe Trail to, Santa Fe was in Mexico. It was had been a town under Spanish control since 1500s. But Americans have a Santa Fe Trail that they trade along, and they're also settling along the Santa Fe Trail, even outside of the United States, in what is Mexican territory. And they're doing this because they assume this land's going to belong to the U.S. anyway. The same assumption is guiding folks up here who are taking the California Trail and settling here and there along the way. Folks taking the Oregon Trail, settling in the Oregon country. They're assuming that California and Oregon are going to be part of the U.S. It's manifest destiny, they believe. So they're pushing past U.S. borders, assuming that the U.S. will catch up with them. Also review, during and after the Napoleonic Wars, Spanish-American colonies got their independence, became independent republics. Here is Simon Bolivar, the George Washington of South America, leader of many independent struggles in South America. The country of Bolivia is named in his honor. And here is Jose Maria Morelos of Mexico. He was a Catholic priest of Native American and African ancestry who was one of the leaders of Mexico's independence struggle. Anyhow, Spain wanted to get its colonies back, so President Monroe, in the Monroe Doctrine, ghostwritten by his Secretary of State John Quincy Adams, writes that the stuff that that European powers already have, right? The British are up in Canada, and Spain still has Cuba, for example. It's okay for them to keep that, but the U.S. in the Monroe Doctrine says, hands off our neighbors. European powers don't get to conquer our Latin American republics here in the hemisphere. We like our neighbors, and we will regard an attack on them as an attack on us. Now, Europe isn't really scared by President Monroe's message. What matters a lot more is that King George IV of Britain approves a statement by Parliament along the same lines. The rest of Europe is afraid of Britain's navy. But so Britain essentially is the real guarantor of safety for those Spanish American republics. All right. So Texas. This is Mexico as of the 18 teens and 20s. And Texas was a part of Mexico. It was originally together with Coahuila as one large state. Later on, Texas becomes its own thing. But most of the action in Mexico is down here in the old Aztec and Maya heartland. This is where most of the native population was. This is where the encomiendas were. This is where the silver mines were. This is where all the people were and all the money to be made. And Spain first, and then Mexico now, were struggling to convince people to move up to the frontier, to move up to Texas. They were trying to get Mexican people to move up to Texas and New Mexico and California so that they could secure those frontier areas. Tejanos here are Mexicans who live in Texas, right? Texas in Spanish is Tejas. So Tejanos are the Spanish-speaking Mexicans in Texas. And there's not enough of them, not enough Mexican settlers in Texas. Mexico is concerned that the small number of Tejanos in Texas is not enough to defend the state from Indians, the Comanche and other native groups in Texas. They're also concerned that there's so few Tejanos there that maybe the Americans will move in and take over Texas. They don't want that. So Mexico has an idea. They're like, maybe we can use American interest in Texan real estate to hold on to it for Mexico. Mexico is going to offer free land grants to settlers from the United States who come in and agree to do 4 things. Thing 1, got to learn Spanish. Spanish is the official language of Mexico, considered integral to the national identity, so the American settlers got a promise to learn Spanish. Same thing with Catholicism. The Catholic Church is the national religion, part of the national identity. You want to be a Mexican, you want free land in Texas, got to be Catholic. Convert to Catholicism. Of course, you have to agree that you're going to obey Mexican law, and in times of war, you have to agree that you're going to defend Mexico. This is a key provision, right? Because the whole point of this exercise, inviting Americans into Texas, is to help Mexico keep Texas. So if any foreign power, including the U.S., were to attack Texas, were to attack Mexico, then these Americans who come in and are no longer U.S. citizens, they're now Mexican citizens, would defend their adopted country, not their country of birth. So that's the deal. If you sign a contract saying you're going to do these things, you can get a land grant. Lots of Americans take advantage of this offer. In fact, pretty soon you've got more Texans here. Texans are people born in the U.S. who moved to Texas. You've got more Texans than Tejanos, more U.S. born than Mexican born people in Texas. And all the terms of that deal, Americans violate them. The guy in the picture here is Stephen Austin. He was a leading recruiter of American settlers, working as an agent of the Mexican government, and he recruited mostly Southerners. More on this in a sec.